Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'll get us started on this Menstrual Hygiene Day. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Good morning to those in Washington, D.C., a very rainy Washington, D.C., or elsewhere in the States. And good evening, good afternoon to those joining from East Africa or other regions in the world. We're so happy to have you today. My name is Victoria Walker, and I am a policy analyst for the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. And we're so pleased that you've taken the time to join us today as we have this important conversation to mark World Menstrual Hygiene Day. Each year on May 28th, the international community marks this day, and some may wonder why there is a need to uplift something that is a healthy, normal, and natural part of life. And that is because every day, stigma, poverty, gender inequalities, and a lack of access to menstrual health and hygiene services can cause significant menstruation-related challenges for people around the world. These challenges are especially acute for people in humanitarian crises and displacement settings. When conflict or climate or other extraordinary circumstances cause people to flee, their access to resources, essential services, and protection can come to a halt. However, menstruation does not, and neglecting menstrual health and hygiene needs can lead to grave impacts on physical and mental health, therefore worsening already critical refugee and migration situations, especially for women and girls. Menstruation, commonly referred to as a period, is often stigmatized. Many find it awkward or unnecessary to talk about, yet it is one of the most important conversations for humanitarian actors, policymakers, and the global community to have. Today, we're joining the movement for a period-friendly world, one where everyone can access menstrual health services and products, as well as period education. I am honored to be joined by our three incredible speakers today who truly know what it means to work towards a period-friendly world for all. And today we're going to hear from Sudi Omar, who is the CEO and founder of the refugee-led organization Girl Power Action Initiative in Kakuma Refugee Camp and Kalobey Settlement in Kenya. She's leading efforts to provide vital resources to dropout and school-going girls in the camps and surrounding host communities. And this includes through enhancing menstrual hygiene management. Firdaus Ali Bashe, USCRI's Kenya country director, who alongside her incredible team has overseen USCRI's Keep Girls Dreaming initiative that delivered over 500,000 sanitary pads to Kakuma, Kalobey, and Dadaab in Kenya. And Firdaus is an incredibly passionate advocate, and I'm honored to call her a colleague. And lastly, we're so honored to have Deborah Nabukira, the Grant and Acquisition Coordinator for HEKS Swiss Church Aid in Uganda and South Sudan, where she leads strategic resource mobilization efforts to support impactful humanitarian and development programming, including menstrual hygiene management and advocacy. Thank you to all three of you for being here today. I'm going to dive right into the conversation that we have planned. And just so our audience knows, there will be time for question and answer. There's a Q&A function in the webinar, and so please feel free to type in your questions or any chats that you have into the Q&A function, and we'll be monitoring that for our question and answer session at the end. So I'm going to turn to Sudi first and ask if, Sudi, can you share the story behind the founding of Girl Power Action Initiative and what inspired you to advocate for menstrual health and hygiene in Kakuma and Kalobey?
Thank you very much, Victoria, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Sudi Omar. I'm originally from Somalia. I've been a refugee in Kakuma for the past 16 years. Hello, can you hear me, guys?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I've been refugee for the past 16 years. I was technically raised in Kakuma refugee camp. So, the story behind Girl Power Action Initiative Foundation was when we talk about menstruation and the community I'm from, it's a taboo and it's something that should be hidden no matter what. And one of the fine days, I was in one of the primary schools in Kakuma, and it just happens that I met a small girl crying behind the toilets, and I just got curious, and then I was like, let me just ask her and know what is happening. Is she okay? And when I reached there, she was very terrified. She was very, like, she thought she was dying. And after a few conversations with her, understanding what's wrong, I get to understand that she got her period, but then she didn't know what was happening. And I had to help her clean up and give her a pad ahead. And after that, I had to tell her, like, you're not dying. This is normal. This is something that you have to undergo as long as you are growing up. And she was around 13 years. So she told me she was there since 10 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, she got her period in the classroom, and her classmates were making fun of her, and everyone was saying, oh, you dying. And so she had to run and hide herself in the toilet for God knows how many hours, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Like when I found her was around 3 p.m. So after that, it really touched me because it's when, like, and then I get to remember our life, and then I was like, wow, this is a conversation that no one really taught me when I was also growing up. And girls are facing a lot of challenges when it comes to access to menstruation hygiene management education, product or anything. And yeah, that is where Girl Power Action Initiative was formed. After that, we had to do need assessment in the primary schools to understand is it really a need in the in the schools. And yeah, funny enough, we found out that 90% of the girls who didn't get their period know nothing about period. So it was something we were like, wow, we need to step in. We need to have raise awareness, education. Also, one of the other things we found in our need assessment was that girls usually miss 5 days a month because of their when they get their period, and then they don't have access to the product, so it becomes hard for them to come to the schools. And there's a lot of, some of them have to hide because of the cultural taboos and all that. When you have period, you don't have to go outside, you have to be like in rooms or all that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudhi. And you highlighted so many incredible points, important points of when there's a lack of menstrual health education, what is a period? You know, it leaves a lot of girls in a state of fear, not knowing what's happening to them when menstruation begins, and then coupled with a lack of access to menstrual hygiene products, pads, or resources. It can take girls out of school, and we have these compounding challenges. And thank you so much for highlighting how that has, you know, put Girl Power Action Initiative into the advocacy and services realm. We're going to stay in Kenya and go over to Firdaus. Firdaus, I was wondering if you can tell us a bit about what inspired USCRI to start the Keep Girls Dreaming initiative, and how does the organization envision its growth, sustainability, and impact on the lives of girls in Kakuma and Dadaab?
Okay, thank you, Victoria, for having me on this webinar. So USCRI team visited Kakuma and Dadaab in 2023 for field research and advocacy. So among the many problems, as Sudhi mentioned, the team kept hearing from the girls and the teachers on how serious the impact of menstruation had on the girls' enrollment in school. So the girls were forced to be absent in school. The girls are forced to drop out of school. And this was because of, as Sudi said, no access to the pads and also other hygiene products. So, and these are girls that have inspirations, you know, for their lives. They want to become doctors, they want to become lawyers, they want to become teachers, but of course they cannot fulfill these inspirations if they stay out of school. So after this visit, this is how the Keep Girls Dreaming initiative began. The USCRI was able to raise enough money to provide, as you said in your introduction, over 500,000 sanitary pads. And this was able to reach 5,000 girls to help them take care of their menstrual hygiene for a period of 1 year. So in January 2024, we provided these sanitary pads, and then in January 2025, the team visited Kakuma again. I also visited Kakuma with the team, and among many other problems, we kept also hearing, we interacted with the students in schools and the girls. I remember asking the girls, what is the pressing issue that they have that stops them from going to school? And they said sanitary pads and panties. So this is a huge problem. It's a pressing problem that is still there. So Keep Girls Dreaming initiative, you know, it wants to go beyond providing sanitary pads, and to do that, we are also engaging with other NGOs. We want to create a space where all these girls can manage their menstruation hygiene in a safe way and with dignity. So we are engaging with NGOs and RLOs and teachers and caregivers, and so that one, we can keep the supplies constant, and also to have psycho-social workshops to support these girls and to break the stigma, and also to provide foster support for the unaccompanied minors and girls, and to equip the girls with skills that can, skills like them being able to tailor and stitch reusable pads, and also to keep these girls in school. So our goal is to keep the girls in school and to remind them that their dreams are valid and they can be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Firdaus. And I think you highlighted one of the critical points, and one thing we're trying to highlight in the webinar today, which is the collaboration that's necessary to fully address menstruation-related challenges and the challenges so many women and girls are facing in Kakuma and Kalobey, Dadaab, but many displacement settings around the globe, and the importance of collaborating with refugee-led organizations, with the community itself. And I know we'll be talking about that more in this webinar today. But thank you so much for sharing what USCRI is doing and plans to grow that support. We're going to hop over to Uganda now. And Deborah, thank you so much for being with us today. And I know I just wanted to flag for folks, sometimes we'll have the cameras off for our speakers today, just for connectivity quality. So Deborah, I wanted to know, based on HEKS experience, what are the most common barriers that women and girls face in accessing menstrual health and hygiene in the Bidi Bidi refugee settlement or other displacement settings in Uganda?
Thank you so much, Victoria, and good afternoon, good morning to other people and from wherever they are based at the moment. In terms of access and barriers, HEKS EPER has understood quite a number of aspects. For those who might not be aware, Bidibidi is one of the largest settlements in the world and hosts, I think, quite a number of refugees. In country, it's also located the farthest from the capital. So that in itself already provides for last mile distribution. So the first point I would say would be the limited access to the products themselves, because the settlement is located so far away and has quite a number of refugees there and displaced persons. It's more than what the partners can even handle. So there's quite a limited number of pads that they can access. And when you look at the status, the financial status of refugees and displaced persons, especially coming out of a crisis, even if it's protracted, as in the context of Bidibidi, vis-a-vis the cost of menstrual pads. In Uganda currently, a menstrual pad, a disposable menstrual pad goes for almost $3. And for a refugee, that's on the higher side. I mean, these are people who are looking for resources just to feed their families, so to speak. So things like menstrual pads are put on the banner. Of course, there's issues of now wash facilities in a setting like a refugee settlement when CSOs and the government is doing all they can to provide what's basic. Unfortunately, even within the context of WASH, menstrual health and hygiene is not considered as a basic service. So while they are putting up shelters and all these other necessary requirements, you'll find that facilities for MHM are normally left to the refugees themselves to cater. So people are ending up using clothes and all these other unhealthy kind of materials. In Bidibidi, sometimes you find that they're even using leaves. I'm sure it could be even the case for other settlements. Another, I would say, and that is quite the elephant in most of the spaces, is the culture norms. Bidibidi and the host community is largely a very Muslim society, and Firdaus can bear me witness that there's a lot of culture norms and religious norms that are powered by the culture and the religion, so to speak, in terms of how you handle blood and how you handle a menstrual pad. So you cannot use some types of menstrual pads, but you can also put them out. Even if you have access to a usable sanitary pad, you really cannot, you're not given this right space to use it. So it provides for a lot of constraints in terms of using these products. And another aspect I would think, and I would close with this, is the ignorance of what's available on the market is also something else. Most of the refugees are not aware, where do I get the pad? Even if they have the money, they're mostly reliant on organizations. They don't know which type is good for them. Where can I get it? How do I get a regular supply? So it becomes a constant dance and play to even access the product, even if you had the money. Yeah. Thank you, and over to you, Victoria.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much for detailing the various levels of complexities around this topic, and for, I think, many in the international community and many humanitarian actors, even, and policymakers neglect to consider the various elements to accessing menstrual hygiene products and services, the cultural elements that you mentioned, Deborah, that you've detailed, the taboos, even around reusable pads. That's something we experienced. I know USCRI experienced in the delivery and distribution, and the conversation around reusable versus disposable, and so many elements to that discussion. But one being, when you're washing a reusable pad, where are you putting it out to dry? Where can it be seen? That was a large conversation we had in Dadaab. And then the other element you brought in around access to the pads themselves. And when we're talking about displaced populations, refugees, asylum seekers, already in very dire conditions, and dealing with desperate situations many a times financially, when it comes to feeding your family or being able to purchase what are very expensive menstrual hygiene products. That's a choice, a decision no one should ever be forced to make. Yet we see period poverty happening around the world, including in the United States, but especially in displacement settings. So thank you so much for highlighting those elements. I know we'll continue to discuss them with our Q&A session. I'm gonna pivot back to Sudi, and ask another question here. Sudi, why is it important for refugee-led organizations like Girl Power to lead efforts in menstrual hygiene and for refugee communities to actively participate in designing the programs?
Thank you very much. Before I answer that question, I also wanted to highlight some things about the what she has said. Because when we talk about menstruation, the way she said there's also cultural interference, there's religion interference at some point, and I think what we need to do as advocate for menstruation hygiene management at some point is also engage conversations with men, boys, fathers, and everyone, because who made this thing to become a taboo or to become like something? Some people think it's some people think it's a disease or something like that. Yeah. So when we talk about awareness, when we talk about empowerment, we should not also forget boys. Because when we go to schools, when we only target girls, that stigma will never end. Yeah, because we are forgetting that it's two-part world. Yeah, boys and girls are going to the school same time, and then when they come back, they have brothers. When they are at home, they have fathers, they have uncles. So if we just keep on working with women and girls, I don't think we will be reaching our end goal to end period stigmatization, taboos. And the main important thing is to have inclusive discussions. Like recently, we had a discussion with inclusive, like we had a discussion with boys and girls, and we didn't tell them anything that we were supposed to do. When they come and then we started the topic of menstruation, 3 boys stand up and went home because they were like, this doesn't concern us. You see, so that means that we still have a long way to go when it's come to awareness and all that. And without taking much time, back to the question, why it's important for RLOs like Girl Power to lead efforts in menstruation, because we are the grassroots organization. For me personally, I know what challenges, what the people need, the kind, because I'm from the community. I'm from Kakuma refugee camp. I have been raised in Kakuma. I know whatever that is going around, yeah. And then the other big ignorance or mistake that all the people, all the well-wishers who want to bring projects to refugee camps, that they don't really engage the people who need to get the project. Yeah, if you want to do and if you want to have an impact of your project, you have to have to understand, is the solution I'm bringing to this community, is it something that they really need it? Sometimes you can come up with a solution like giving someone maybe access to education, but when in real sense they need access to food. So understanding that, is it really something like not just coming up with their own solution? Engaging grassroots organization gives them that exposure, gives them that understanding of what the community really needs. And it's like we just RLOs, we just don't want to be like just included because people want information, or like they just want to understand the community. No, give, like, it's important for international organization or donors or funders to trust the RLOs, to make them a partner, to not treat them like a beneficiary, or people who are in need of aid. Yeah, we should be taken as a full partner, a full collaborator, instead of like engaging us in just in the pilot and then going ahead and implementing the project without including us. So when we talk about inclusivity of RLOs, it means give us the whole support. Just don't use us as the stepping stone. Don't use the RLOs as a stepping stone. Use them as a partners. Just come on the table, talk about what you want to do, trust them, like give them the thing you want to do, because we have the capacity, we have the understanding, we are the people who have been living in this refugee camp for so many years, and then so many projects that has been happening in the refugee camp. If RLOs have been included, if RLOs have been on the table, I'm sure there could have been a lot of impact, a lot of changes. I think, and then when it's come to menstruation, like it's really important to also engage women-led organization, because when you want to engage girls, you have to be with someone who understands them, someone from, like, for example, if you want to engage people from Muslim community or Somali community, you have to engage, you have to be with someone who understands the culture. You can't just go there and you are from different culture or from different religion. You will not have the, like, they will not give you the real what they need, or what is there, or like you won't get any impact, or you won't get the how things are. Yeah. So also including women-led organization, whatever, when it's come to menstruation awareness or advocacy, it's also good to take people who understand the people. Like when we're doing session, like you can, when you're doing session with menstruation hygiene management, and you know that girls are very shy, girls cannot talk with when men are around there. It's always advisable to go to people who have women in the organization who understand this. And when we doing only girls session, girls are very open. Girls can tell you so many things that they will never say when someone that they are not comfortable is on the group. Yeah, and we can actively participate if we have been given the chance, the trust, and yeah, to lead. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sudhi. And you bring up many important points around inclusivity. And so I think two top lines to underscore here, for those who are all of us on the call, but especially those who are tuning in with international organizations and or policymakers, the importance of engaging, and not just engaging for information or for show, refugee-led organizations, women-led organizations. It is critical that there's meaningful participation there, multi-year sustainable funding for refugee-led organizations. No one knows the community better than the communities themselves. And so thank you so much, Sudhi, for bringing that, highlighting that for all of us. I think also the points you made around engaging men and boys and those who may not menstruate in the conversation about menstruation is so critical in combating stigma. Like you said, all those who menstruate have people in their lives who do not, and the influence and access to period education, whether you have a period or do not, is critical in ensuring safe communities and areas where everyone can participate in day-to-day life. And so thank you for highlighting that. And I'm sure we can get into a deeper dive and some questions around that topic as well. Thanks so much, Sudhi. I'm going to turn back to Firdaus. to ask about some of the national policies that we're seeing in Kenya, and how are these national policies seeking to address menstrual hygiene management, and why do you feel it's crucial to include refugees and displaced populations in these policies?
Okay, so Kenya has taken some important steps towards menstrual hygiene. I mean, under the Ministry of Health, it launched the Menstrual Hygiene Management Policy in 2020. And this policy outlines the national commitment to ensure all women and girls manage their periods with dignity. And also, this includes access to menstrual products and clean and safe facilities, and also the correct knowledge on menstruation and breaking the harmful stigma around it. So the other policy in Kenya, we also have the Basic Education Act, and this act, it requires the public schools to provide free sanitary pads and proper disposal systems. So these are very good and important steps, but we know that we are still very far from achieving all this. And not all national policies are fully applied in refugee settings. So it is crucial and very important to include these policies in refugee settings. And because one, in refugee settings, the need is very urgent and it's huge. And also the menstrual hygiene, I mean, it's a basic right for the girls, be it girls in Kakuma, Dadaab, or anywhere else. All the girls deserve the same support as the girls everywhere else. So, or maybe in refugee settings, they even deserve more support because they are very vulnerable. So it is very crucial to include these policies in refugee settings. And we also have, I would like to also mention the Shirika plan, just briefly, which also the Shirika plan, it is an initiative to integrate the refugees into the host communities. And it also has in it the menstrual hygiene policy. So we are looking forward and to see how this policy will be implemented. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Firdaus. And it's great to hear that Kenya, the Kenyan government is putting forward these policies for progress on menstrual health. And, you underscored for us that menstrual health is not just a health issue, not, access to education, all of these things. It's a basic human rights issue. And so for all governments around the world to ensure that menstrual health and menstrual hygiene is included in such policies, and that all people who menstruate are included in that and centered in that. That's really important, and thank you for highlighting that. I'm going to go back to Uganda, to Deborah, for one last question. And Deborah, I'm wondering if you could share with us about the Pads for All project and how it was designed, and in what ways did cultural norms influence or shape the project's implementation?
Thank you once again, Victoria. The project was shaped while we were intervening in a WASH mainstream intervention. I'm sorry about the background noise. While HEKS EPER was supporting a local partner to integrate the refugees and host community in a WASH intervention, which nationally we call now the utility management model, in terms of accessing water and sanitation facilities, we understood that while we were undertaking the intervention at school level, some of the students were not actually turning up for some of the meetings. When I dug deep, I realized that the teachers had to interface, so to speak, with the learners to understand what days were convenient. And this had a lot to do with menstruation and the days when they were menstruating, to actually fully participate in the programs. So one of our key learners, who was also a key speaker in some of the activities as a community mobilizer, I realized was missing a lot of days throughout the first year of intervention. When I also interfaced with her and dug deep, I realized that in the community where she was coming from, once you were undergoing your menstruation, you were separated from the rest of the community and the household as a unit. So you are secluded and put in a different setting where they have a concept that's known as free bleeding. So what happens is that they dig for you a hole within the structure of your home, which is a different unit from the actual household shelter. And then you can bleed because there is no product to contain the blood. So this girl would go missing for a week on end without attendance in school, without participation. And now this led to us restructuring the program to include an active MHM component within that program, where we started with sensitizing the students and the teachers about the destabilization of some of the cultural norms in order to facilitate access to menstrual health and hygiene, because the concept of free bleeding in itself presents a lot of unhealthy habits in as much as it's compliance to a culture and what is expected. But it was a very long journey where we had to also build up a very strong advocacy component that were not originally within the program, but became very relevant and part of the modification. And it is from there that we started to engage the district, the sub-counties, other partners, because in the context where we were working at the time, UNHCR was providing disposable pads. However, due to funding and all these other challenges, it was not enough. So most of the beneficiaries were really, really struggling in terms of MHM. And because of the culture and the taboos around such a topic, it couldn't be freely discussed. So as we speak now, today is actually very special for me, but for also HEKS as an organization and the district where we work in Yumbe, because we are still within that space. As we speak now, they just concluded the commemoration. I think this is the third district commemoration of menstrual health and hygiene that was spearheaded by HEKS and has now become a regional affair. So the conversation has changed from the time that I'm speaking about now. But at that time, you couldn't even bring it up to the parents to speak, especially the fathers. So I understand when Sudi says that male participants should not be left out of these conversations. It's very, very key. We had to incorporate male allies, and from all these conversations and different engagements, we were able to secure support from the district, but also the government as a whole, because in Uganda, also the conversation is just coming to the limelight in terms of improving MHM. And that is how the social enterprise of women in Yumbe began. Currently, we are supporting 60 women to produce and sell reusable sanitary pads. The pads are called Salama reusable pads. We've had a lot of support from the community, but also because we put in a lot of work with advocacy and the CSOs and the government, even at national level, to prepare the ground, so to speak, to be able to embrace a reusable sanitary pad, because it also came with its own challenges, as some of the members here will testify. So as we stand now, we have a production workshop where the women come together to produce and work together to still advocate for an enabling environment in terms of the infrastructure. What do we need, and how do we go from here? Yes, now we can talk about it, but what communities are lagging behind? How can we help the girls in schools? Is it that everybody can now start to produce a pad? Because we know that it also comes with health challenges. The pad that we are producing is now undergoing formalization with the government at national level, but it has passed all the technical and health tests that were subjected to it. So we are in the process of trademarking And we have supported the women's group to formalize their engagement into a social enterprise that is now being supported at national level to become a company. They are looking at expansion. They are looking at partnerships. They are currently working with an organization known as Brass for Africa, where they're advocating for MHM through music, through dance, through drama. And they're also encouraging the conversation between host and refugees in terms of how they can best work together. As you may be aware, the situation in Bidibidi is kind of a long-standing one. While the crisis is not very new, it keeps changing and the context keeps evolving. And now we are looking at almost a new crisis in a protracted crisis, if you understand what I mean. So the challenges remain within the host and the refugee. And this is the main reason of the foundation of the group, that it will touch the membership of host. There's representation from the host community and representation from the refugees. Currently, the project is in its final year, so we are actively fundraising and looking for collaborations on how to scale up the work that has already been started with the women's group. They are also partnering with some small other organizations locally and trying to explore opportunities with the private sector. At the moment, HEKS support is geared around subsidizing the cost of production, but also exploring opportunities for the continuation of the social enterprise and the project as a whole. Thank you. And over to you, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Deborah, and congratulations. It's incredible to hear about the project's evolution and the 3-year marker that this year, makes. I think for a lot of us on this call, it's so important to hear about the various pieces that go into creating, developing, and implementing such a project. And you mentioned so many opportunities for partnership and who to be engaging. And I hope folks on this call are, just as I am, hearing things that you, Sudi, and Firdaus are talking about, and lights are going off in our heads, thinking, of course that's important. Of course this would be someone to consult with. Of course this is a branch of a project we should, be considering. And I think that's one of the largest value adds of conversations like this, is we get to learn from one another. And so thank you for sharing that. All right, I'm going to bring us into our Q&A portion. I know we've had some questions posed in the chat already. So I will start with, and forgive me, I'm just going with what I see. There's a question for Deborah here from Taylor saying, you mentioned there have been some conversations between the refugee and Ugandan host communities. What have been some concrete learnings about how both communities can work together to address menstrual hygiene management?
Thank you, Taylor, for that very important question. In the first stages of the project, this was something that was an oversight on our part. But as the group dynamics evolved, we realized that one of the key aspects that is very key to making this a success would be conflict transformation. Even if it stops at conflict mitigation, the refugees and the host community, in as much as it appears that they have the same challenges, they quite differ in terms of the background, but also the context in which they see things is quite different. So in the second year of the project, we learned that we had to bring in the element of conflict mitigation, prevention, and transformation. So as we were empowering the committees and within the group itself to take up leadership, but also learn things like business management, we introduced the concept of conversation in simple terms to talk about the challenges that first of all, the challenges that could even affect their work as a social enterprise. So it became very clear that beyond what we see as a project, these are human beings that have real challenges. And the challenges may differ per small unit of community, to even household level, to even the woman herself as an individual. So for us, that was one of the key learnings, is that we, beyond even approaching it as a project, we approach it as a journey. This is somebody's journey. This is a real life story. Somebody's actually being affected by what is happening. And there are some real repercussions within that story that affect the larger project or whatever intervention you're trying to do. And within those conversations, we also got to understand that sometimes the refugees are better placed to manage things, even within the host community. And this was a difficult realization to come to. It stemmed from a lot of conflicts in terms of assigning refugees places of leadership and all these things. But beyond the issues of self-repatriation or government repatriation or systemic changes, as we may call them, sometimes a newcomer is not a bad thing to take up what resources that we have on ground, if it is to improve the overall community. So the women have learned to work together beyond looking at who is coming from where. So it's been I think that those are two of the most highlights in terms of learning. Maybe I could also mention that it's good to understand that between refugees and host communities, the issues are not as I'm trying to look for the correct English word. The issues are not as theoretical as we could place them. So maybe a more deeper understanding of what is presented would also provide a bigger solution or sustainable solutions towards reintegration of refugees, but also resettlement and recovery and all these other things that we look at between host and refugees. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. There's another question in the chat, really important. Alexandria, thank you. She says, you all are doing such amazing work. As we all know, the current U.S. administration has withdrawn funding and support for programs internationally. Can you speak to any impacts you've already experienced and or what you anticipate the future of these programs looking like? I'll put this out on the floor. I don't know if Deborah, Sudi, or Firdaus would like to speak to this first.
Yeah, I can go ahead. Repeat the question again.
We can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, can you repeat for me the question?
Oh, sure. Yes, it is about current U.S. funding cuts. So the cut of financial support for a lot of programs internationally has been quite devastating. And so have you all experienced any impacts of these funding cuts or other financial cuts? And how do you anticipate this impacting the future of menstrual health programs or menstrual hygiene management services?
Thank you very much. The person who asked this question, it's really a crisis that's really going on in the refugee camp right now. It has a big impact, and then when we talk about all the activities that have been happening in the camp, especially in Kakuma, have been paused, and there's a lot of national workers who have lost their work because of the aid cards. And when we talk about, like, there is an organization which was giving food ration to the refugees in the camp, even though it was very small, but since the cut of the the funding, it really went, like, it's really in a high in a complicated place, because there's an incident recently where, like, what is it called? A mother commits suicide because she didn't have access to food, and she has 6 kids. And then that has really affected, and it also affects in the menstruation side, because if families, the ration side is really cut off, and like it will be hard for girls to have access to menstruation products because most of the organization used to get their funding from USAID, and it's not there anymore. So it really becomes hard, and we have already seen it. The funding cuts have been, it's been cut January, yeah? But right now we have seen a lot of impact that it has, especially the negative one. I haven't seen a positive one yet, but we're all seeing it, the negative one, because we have been, like when we talk about the refugee camp, it's been an aid receiving place, yeah. And then when that aid have been taken away, the lives are very critical at this point, and then access to so many basic needs are really becoming very hard at this point. Yeah.
Thank you, Sudi. That's really important, I think, for all of us to hear. And thank you for asking the question. I'll open it up for Firdaus. Deborah, I don't know if you had anything else to feed into that.
Yes, if I'd like to add to what Sudi just said. So I'll talk on the anticipation on this, the cut of the funds, because even before there was the fund cuts, we know that there was a strain on the NGOs in providing, and also with the UNHCR providing these sanitary pads already. So also as we went, they were all complaining that they don't have enough sanitary pads. So with the cut in funds, it's going to even make the problem huge and more. Thank you.
Thanks, Firdaus.
Yes,
And
for sure.
Deborah, go
Victoria,
ahead. Yeah.
I agree with Sudi and Firdaus. The situation is not much different in Uganda. What we are doing and what we had started to do while we started to anticipate these changes is look to alternative solutions like private sector, more local funding, working with local foundations. We haven't yet seen a lot of positive impact, like Sudi said, but we are hoping for the best while also looking to explore new opportunities. But it's really, really bad.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, I think, even from, Washington, being located in Washington, we've seen such catastrophic reverberating impacts of these funding cuts that have touched, many regions of the world, and in Kenya and Uganda, in the broader East Africa region. Thank you all for sharing about how those have touched menstrual health services as well. And I guess this kind of brings us into another question that's in the chat to all speakers. What could be the support that people at this webinar could do in general? So is that advocacy? Is it fundraising or other aspects? How can people on this webinar best support all of you in your work and this cause as a whole? Anyone want to take this first?
I can take it first. I think that's a very interesting question, and really thank you to the person who asked it. For me, I think that you can do a bit of all that, looking at the capacity that you have and the resources within your own community and your own means. Advocacy is very good because it lays the ground for so much more. What an intervention can do, advocacy will do even 5 times, 6 times better. It's uncountable. So a bit of advocacy, a bit of fundraising, a new business, proposing new collaborations. How can we put our resources together? Are there any opportunities whatsoever in such a very difficult landscape that we are working in right now? How best can we put our hands together? It's all very much needed and will be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Sudi or Firdaus, would you like to feed into this?
Yes, I'd just like to stress on what has just been said. So, of course, advocacy and fundraising is very important, and also spread the word. And it's important to get involved in the various initiatives that are being spoken about here to support the refugees to manage their periods. Thank you.
Thanks, Firdaus. Sudi?
Yeah, I think it's everything Deborah and Firdaus said is really needed, and since there is a funding cut, we shouldn't just take it as a negative way. Maybe it's also a calling that we should really find a ways of making people be sustainable, or looking for a project that are sustainable, not just a receiving aid. And how can people support us, especially in Girl Power, is work with us, volunteer with us, advocate with us, fundraise with us, and like it's not only the fund donors who want to support, but also there are people in the private sector who are willing to support others, but they don't have the information. So also giving out the information, yeah, just join us on this journey to change people's life.
Thank you, Sudi. And I think you all mentioned a key aspect, which is that people can get involved. There are ways to get involved. I think so often we feel, like we don't know where to step next, or we don't have the information, or where to pass on the information. And so I think this highlights the ways that you can get involved, connect with these organizations, connect with these incredible, passionate advocates, even right here on your screen. And together we really can make a difference. And so I know we are running shorter on time. I do see some other questions coming into the chat, and we can address those, and I can email out some responses and connect speakers in. And I know our team is putting some links in where you can learn more. We can send out a follow-up connecting, the various websites and speakers and all the programs you heard about today. Thank you all so much for joining. But how I wanted to close us out is to give each speaker another opportunity. It's Menstrual Hygiene Day. We're uplifting this movement. And so what key message or points do you want to leave us with to take forward into this day? Sudi, did you want to start?
Sorry, I thought I opened my mic and I was raising my hand. Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about this webinar. And it's really, the cause of today, it's something really important to me and also close to my heart. And yeah, for me, my closing remarks will be, let's make menstruation education access to girls. Let's make it a basic needs as much as we can. Let's also make access to menstruation product accessing as possible as we can, because most of the time if you go to the public places, it's easy to find tissue, but then it's never easy to find a pad in the toilet, or like let's have places where girls can access the pads or menstruation products at any point in their life, if it's either school, church, mosque, or anywhere. Yeah. And the other one is invest in RLOs, refugee-led organization. Let's work together. Don't see them as beneficiaries or people who lack capacity. Take them as full partners. Give them the chance, bet on them, and we can deliver. Yeah, I also wanted to share Girl Power details here. I cannot access the link, the chat, but you can share with them, Victoria. And yeah, my email is open to anyone who want to collaborate with us, to volunteer with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudi. And yes, I can share that in the chat. Firdaus, would you like to go next?
Yes, so I'd like to urge everybody and to tell them that we all have a role to play. So please do get involved in the various initiatives to support the refugee girls. Visit the website and see how you can support. it's very important for us to support the refugee girls in managing their menstrual hygiene safely, in good health, and with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Firdaus. Deborah?
Thank you. My message is simple, not much different from the others. It starts with us. It starts with you, with me, with interest, with finding out ways how we can come together, like already said. Victoria, please feel free to share what we do. If you don't have it, I can still share exactly the current status of everything I've spoken about. But the message is, it starts with all of us. Individually, at organization level, it's our collective responsibility. So thank you so much. And over to you, Victoria.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our phenomenal speakers who are advocates, passionate advocates, and incredible human beings and colleagues. And it's an honor to know all of you and to hear all of your incredible work. Thank you to everyone who joined the webinar today. As I mentioned, it was recorded, so we'll be able to post it up on our website later, and we'll share it with all of you. We can circulate some resources of the projects that you've mentioned. A couple have been dropped in the chat, but please do reach out to me via email if you'd like to learn more. I will put that in the chat right now. Please feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you all so much, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. Bye, everybody.